Chapter 2018. Fuck, she's still pretending at a time like this. She's refreshing my offline page. A shameless person is invincible. I even spoke up for her just now, saying that she's righteous. I'm so blind. Han Zishuan, get out of the entertainment industry. Han Zishuan, get out of the entertainment industry. Han Zishuan's acting was perfect, but now, everyone was as angry and shocked as they were. They sneered and mocked her, shouted at her to get out of the entertainment industry, and aimed their microphones and flashes at her. Han Zishuan's hair was messy, her delicate makeup was ruined, her luxurious gown was crumpled, and one of her high heels had fallen off. She kept repeating, "It wasn't me. It wasn't me. Stop squeezing. Stop squeezing. Security. Where's the security? I'm going to call the police if you keep this up." Ah. Zhang Anru screamed as a bottle of mineral water was smashed on her head. The whole scene was in chaos. It was the age of the internet. It wasn't like the past, where the public would only know about the big news the next day when the newspaper office had to work overtime to print it. All the major media outlets had already posted what was happening on the internet, and they had even live-streamed the whole thing in real time. Everything that had happened just now, including the video of Han Zixian and Yi Sudong on the big screen, as well as the scene of Han Zixian appearing with disheveled hair and getting beaten up by everyone, quickly spread to every corner and caused a huge uproar on the internet. In the luxurious bedroom of the Su family's house, Ning Xuelua's dark face reflected the dim light from the laptop, and her eyes were filled with malice. Useless thing. She had already handed the knife to Han Zishuan, but she still messed things up. Ning Shi had gotten hold of such an important weakness of hers, and she didn't even know about it before this. What a waste! Ning Xuelua's phone suddenly rang. The caller ID showed that it was Zhang Anru. Ning Xuelua glanced at it from the corner of her eyes, and pressed the reject button without hesitation. Han Zishuan was definitely done for if such a video was released. There was no point in keeping this kind of waste. She had achieved her goal anyway. Ning Xuelua took a deep breath, picked up her phone and dialed a number. She sounded extremely displeased. "Did I spend money just to let you watch the show? Don't forget your mission today. No matter what happens, we can't let Ningxi get away with this." Yes, President Ning, don't worry. Ningxi can't run away. Just wait and see. That better be the case. At the charity banquet, while Han Zishuan and Zhang Anru were shouting at each other, a voice suddenly rang out from the crowd. "Heh, what a dog-eat-dog scene. Ningxi, is this the explanation you vowed to give us? Even if Han Zishuan committed murder and arson, what does that have to do with you? Does that change the fact that you seduced Su Yan and forced Ning Shui, a pregnant woman?" Reminded by the tall reporter, the indignant onlookers immediately turned their attention to Ning Shi, who was sitting on the table. Exactly. What was this? Divert my attention? Are you treating us like fools? This kind of person is not worthy of sympathy. She deserves to have her fans and resources stolen by Han Zishuan. I think she's even more vicious than Han Zishuan. She wouldn't even let a pregnant woman off. When she was discovered, she didn't apologize or give an explanation to the public. Instead, she was in a hurry to drag someone else down with her. Her character is really amazing. Chapter 2019. The tall reporter said indignantly, "Ning Xueluo is so unlucky. She got involved in the quarrel between these two bitches." This immediately aroused many people's agreement. "I'm getting more and more disappointed with this circle. All the innocent and kind people are gone, but the unscrupulous and shameless bitches can live well. Bitches, get out of the entertainment circle." In the banquet hall, the artists were shouting and cursing incessantly. All the exits were blocked. The indignant media also surrounded Ning Shi and Su Tao to denounce them. Amidst the chaotic crowd, Ying Yu quietly hid among the agitated crowd. Everything went so smoothly, exactly as she had expected. Her palms were hot and her body was trembling with excitement. It was over. Han Zishuan was over. Ning Shi was over. She no longer had to look at Han Zishuan's face. She no longer had to fight for Zishuan's money. At that time, she would have the top resources in the entire entertainment circle. It was even possible for her to replace Ning Shi and get the killer. After all, in the entire entertainment circle, without Han Zixuan and Ning Shi, she would be the most popular. She couldn't wait to find Su Tao after all this was over. She even began to think of a blueprint for the future. While the reporters besieged Ning Shi, Han Zixuan hid in the corner with messy clothes and dirty hair. She stared straight at Ning Shi and suddenly laughed in a low voice. She seemed to have thought of something. She looked like a madman. Ha ha ha. Ning Shi, why can you do it but I can't? How much nobler are you than me? You seduced a married man and used the unspoken rules to get to the top. Don't pretend to be pretentious in front of me. Even if you slander me to death, you won't get away with it. You won't get away with it even if I die, haha. At this moment, the banquet hall was completely out of control. The onlookers were broadcasting the scene live on their mobile phones. The professional cameras of the media reporters also synchronized the high-definition images directly to major media or live video websites. All the related live broadcast rooms were full of people. Apart from the media at the scene, the comments in the live stream were also filled with vulgar words and curses. Under the pressure of public opinion, which could almost drive a person crazy on the spot, Han Zixuan was already in a difficult position and was in a trance. As for Ning Shi, she wore a long black dress and her black hair was like a cloud. Her cold eyes didn't have a trace of emotion. From the beginning to the end, she maintained a sitting posture on her seat. Seeing that Ning Shi was pretending to be calm, the tall reporter was full of complacency. He looked even angrier and shouted to the crowd. As media reporters, it's our duty to restore the truth for the public and seek justice for the weak. I can't let this matter go like this. Ning Shi, it's not that easy to divert your attention. If you don't give us a satisfactory explanation today, we will not let this matter rest. His words immediately incited a large number of people. That's right. It definitely couldn't end here. Ning Shi, apologize to the public. Apologize to the innocent victims. Apologize. Apologize. The tall reporter continued. If an apology works, why do we need the police? Not only should he apologize publicly, but he should also be banned forever. Just as the tall reporter was getting more and more excited, Ning Shi's slightly cold eyes suddenly fell on his face from her seat. Chapter 2020. That gaze seemed to be light and powerless, but it felt like an ice blade was pressed against his throat. In the next second, blood was sealed. An extremely dangerous chill suddenly seeped into his body, causing him to be unable to utter a single word. When the reporter came to his senses, he found that his vest was wet with sweat. Damn it, she was just an actress who sold her body to get a position. What was there to be afraid of? The next second, Ning Shi had already moved her eyes away from the reporter and coldly looked at the live camera in front of her. The cameraman immediately held his breath and steadily held the camera. The other cameras and other people's mobile phones also aimed at Ning Shi. Ning Shi stared at the camera. Her terrifying gaze was not at the cameraman, but at someone through the camera. At this moment, Ning Xuelua was waiting to see Ning Shi's damn calmness completely torn apart, to see her fall into the mud and be doomed eternally. However, when she suddenly met Ning Shi's gaze on the screen, her back stiffened and she couldn't help but feel a chill crawling up her back. As you wish. Ning Shi looked at the camera and said 4 words. The moment her voice fell, a conversation suddenly sounded from the speakers in the banquet hall. Xiaoxi, sister, it's not me. I don't know why he is here. I deliberately waited here because I really don't know how to see you. What's the matter? Can I talk to you alone? Sister, Xiaonua, it's none of your business. Wait for me here. Because it was night, the picture on the big screen was very dim. Only 3 figures could be vaguely seen, a woman, a teenager and a slightly tall man. The woman's voice was obviously Ning Shi's, and the one who called Ning Shi sister seemed to be her younger brother, Tang Nua. Then who was the other person? Say it. It was Ning Shi's voice. The man said, Xiaoxi, let's start over, okay? Just as they were feeling suspicious, the crowd heard the man's words, and there was an uproar. Start over? Ning Shi actually revealed her own gossip? Just when everyone was confused, the man continued to say, Xiaoxi, I know what I said may sound ridiculous to you. Ning Shi's tone was extremely cold. Isn't it? Listen to me, I've thought about it for a very, very long time. This isn't something I said to you on a whim. I really, really regret it. I finally understood who the person I truly liked and loved was. Xiaoxi, what happened that year was my fault. I was the one who betrayed the feelings between us. But at the beginning, I really never thought of leaving you until I met Xueluo. Xueluo's character was too pure and weak, and after such a sudden misfortune, she often complained to me. I also don't know when it started, this kind of feeling changed. Hearing this, everyone finally knew who the speaker was. The man who spoke was actually Su Yan. But Su Yan actually said that he had abandoned his relationship with Ningxi first? What the hell was going on? The voice from the speaker continued. Su Yan. Until later. I had sex with Xueluo in a moment of impulse. I kept hiding it from you, because I really didn't know how to face you. Chapter 2021. But it wasn't until later that I realized that all I cared about was Xueluo. I never thought about your feelings. You left your hometown for me, but I left you alone. After that, Su Yan kept confessing, saying that he had wronged Ningxi and that he didn't want to continue deceiving his feelings. After listening to this, everyone was stunned. Oh my god. Could it be? Could it be that Su Yan's first girlfriend was Ningxi, but he betrayed Ningxi and slept with Xueluo, even forcing Ningxi to leave the country? But now Su Yan regretted it. He wanted to get Ningxi back and pestered her. From his tone, it could be heard that Ningxi didn't want to see him at all. He had used Ningxi's brother to meet her. The so-called first wife was actually the mistress, and the one who was mistaken as the mistress was the real one. This reversal was like a head-on blow. Everyone was dumbfounded. Su Yan said, I know I don't have the right to say this to you in my current situation, and I definitely don't mean to insult you. I will regain my freedom. In the end, Ningxi's emotionless face flashed under the cool moonlight, and the girl's cold voice came through the speaker. Su Yan, some things are like a cotton-padded jacket in summer and a fan in winter. And when a person is disheartened, he will change his mind. As soon as she finished, there was a dead silence. One could hear a pin drop. Those aggressive media outlets just now all had their mouths wide open like idiots. They were flabbergasted, their faces pale, and they couldn't say a word. Especially the tall reporter who had been the loudest and asked Ningxi to apologize to Xueluo. At this moment, he looked like he had eaten shit. Ow. How could this be? Let me calm down. My mind is in a mess now. Everyone looked at each other in a daze. At this time someone said, what else is there to be confused about? Su Yan has already made it very clear. He was Ningxi's boyfriend, and she came to the capital because of him. In the end, Su Yan met Xueluo. Xueluo often pretended to be weak and pitiful in front of him, so Su Yan cheated on Xueluo and had sex with her. He betrayed Ningxi, and Ningxi went abroad in despair. A few years later, she came back and started a new life in the entertainment industry. Fuck. This adulterous couple was simply not human. Especially Xueluo. Not only did she kidnap Ningxi's parents, she even wanted to kidnap Ningxi's boyfriend, forcing Ningxi to leave her hometown. Ningxi had finally recovered from her injury and returned to China to start a new life, but she had been suppressed by her in all kinds of ways. She had such good acting skills and talent, but she had been forced to play a minor role for more than a year. In the end, Xueluo even accused Ningxi of hurting someone on purpose, and had Starlight blacklist her. Luckily, Golden Era cleared her name, and Ningxi slowly recovered after Golden Era. What's worse is that Ningxi worked so hard to get to where she is today. She even experienced life and death to return to her peak. Xueluo, on the other hand, relied on Ningxi's family background and Ningxi's man to become a phoenix, a mistress to a rich wife. She had everything, but she still refused to let Ningxi go. She pretended to distort the truth in front of Han Zixuan, saying that it was Ningxi who wouldn't let Su Yan go. She almost made us all misunderstand Ningxi. Chapter 2022. Everyone was dumbfounded at first, but they gradually came back to their senses and began to analyze everything that had happened to them one by one. It would have been better if they hadn't analyzed it, but after thinking about it carefully, they were terrified. Damn it. I really thought Ning Xuelua was innocent. Now that I think about it, she's just a scheming bitch. What kind of inspirational goddess was she? She clearly snatched everything she had from Ningxi, didn't she? Without the Ning family, how could she survive in the entertainment circle? If she hadn't hooked up with Su Yan, which rich family would marry a wild chicken? Han Zixuan and Ning Xuelua, no wonder they are so close. Birds of a feather flock together. Ningxi is so fucked. She was swapped at a young age. She was the daughter of a wealthy family, and was forced to live among the common people. She was forced to return home. When she finally thought that she had met her true love, she was betrayed by both of them. They were supposed to be the people she loved the most, but they hurt her badly. But Ningxi has never used her family background or personal affairs to gain sympathy. Instead, she has relied on her own strength to get to where she is today without saying a word. On the contrary, it's not enough for someone to steal her parents and boyfriend. She also forced her into a dead end. She's already pregnant, but she doesn't know how to do some good for the child in her belly. At this moment, Ning Xuelua stared at the live broadcast on the laptop, and her innocent little face was completely twisted. Xiaoxi, I regret it. I finally understand who I really like and love. Xiaoxi, I have been deceiving myself for too long. I don't want to continue deceiving myself. I will give you a title, I will marry you, and I will handle everything. You will still be Mrs. Su. Everything between us will start over again. Su Yan's words and the discussion of the media and onlookers made Ning Xuelua's body tremble violently. Her sharp nails pinched the flesh of her palm, and bright red blood dripped to the floor. What a mistress! She was the one Su Yan liked and loved. Ningxi was the mistress who ruined their marriage. Ningxi was the shameless bitch who stole her man. Now the whole world knew that Ning Xuelua's man pestered Ningxi, and even wanted to divorce her for Ningxi. This humiliation was driving her crazy. Ningxi, how dare you? I want you dead. I want you to die a horrible death. In the hall of the charity gala, the reporters surrounded Ningxi once again. Miss Ningxi, how did Ning Xuelua intervene between you and Su Yan? What was the specific situation? Can you tell me about it? Ningxi, I can tell from their conversation that Su Yan has regretted it, and even wants to divorce for you. Will you get back together with him? Ningxi, Xinghui has been trying to recruit you. Will you choose to leave? After all, putting aside all personal factors, Starshine's strength is more beneficial to your career, isn't it? Ningxi didn't answer the personal questions. She glanced at everyone and said, since the media and colleagues are all here today, please be my witnesses. Hearing Ningxi's words, the media and the surrounding artists held their breath, waiting for her next words. Ningxi paused and looked in the direction of the camera. I, Ningxi, swear today that I will be a member of Golden Era in life, and a ghost of Golden Era in death. As long as I'm in the entertainment industry, I'll never leave Golden Era. I'll live and die with them. Chapter 2023. Live and die with Golden Era. Advance and retreat with them. This short sentence set off a huge wave in everyone's hearts. Moreover, this sentence was equivalent to directly rejecting Su Yan, indicating that he would never be with Su Yan. The livestream room was flooded with messages. Awesome, my brother Shi. Live and die together. Advance and retreat together. Brother Shi is really domineering. He has always been vilified, but he has never been defeated. I have no regrets in this life. I only love Brother Shi. As for Su Tao, who was next to Ningxi, he was so touched that he almost cried when he heard his queen's words. At this moment, a certain Koi that was watching the live broadcast was also on the verge of tears. He automatically substituted Ningxi's golden age into his brother's name. In the end, his face was covered in blood because of this show of affection. In life, he belonged to his brother, but in death, he belonged to his brother's ghost. Roar. After Ningxi finished speaking, she nodded to the crowd and then got up to leave. Everyone automatically made way for her, sending her off with their eyes. No matter when, no matter what kind of suffering and slander she faced, she would always leave everyone with her strong side. Such a girl. What kind of man would be able to match her? In the crowd, Han Zixuan had already fallen to the ground with a sluggish expression. She had never expected the truth to be like this. She was the only one who was doomed to eternal damnation. From now on, Ningxi would be an existence that she could only look up to. Yin Yuyu, who was hiding in the corner, was completely dumbfounded. Her face was pale and filled with disbelief. How could this be? How could this be? Didn't Su Tao say that they had no way to clear Ningxi's name? Why did things turn out like this in the end? Although Han Zixuan was finished, Ningxi was not driven out of the entertainment circle. Instead, she became even more popular. What about her? What was she going to do now? Han Zixuan and Zheng Anru must have guessed that she was the one who did it. Xing Hui would never let her off. In the parking lot, Su Tao pounced on Liang Feixing, who was watching from the nanny van. Liangzi, did you hear that? Do you hear me? Her Majesty the Queen said that she would live and die with me. Advance and retreat with me. The corner of Liang Feixing's mouth twitched as he pushed her away. Brother, you think too highly of yourself. The lady boss's words were clearly meant for the boss to hear, okay? Su Tao was slapped, but he didn't care at all. He was still immersed in joy. Thanks to the paparazzi this time. If they hadn't meddled in other people's business and tried to dig up Ningxi's dirt, we wouldn't have gotten this video. These paparazzi followed Ningxi all the way to Capital University and recorded the conversation between Ningxi and Su Yan, but they were discovered in time by Ningxi's bodyguards in the dark, who stopped them. Who would have thought that this thing would come in handy later on? Ningxi had never liked to involve her personal affairs in her work, but this time it concerned the reputation of Golden Era. She volunteered to use the recording without hesitation. Your Majesty, be careful. Su Tao opened the door for Ningxi. Just as he was about to get into the car, he suddenly heard hurried footsteps behind him. Brother Tao. Wait. It was Yin Yuyu who caught up to them, panting heavily. Su Tao raised his brows. It's Yuyu. What's the matter? Yin Yuyu's eyes were filled with anger, but she could only suppress it. Brother Tao, I have something to talk to you about. Sure. Su Tao agreed without hesitation. He then told Ningxi and Liang Feixing to leave first. Ningxi glanced out of the car window and frowned. Liang Feixing drove away without a care in the world. Don't worry, Lady Boss. Yin Yuyu is no match for that old fox Su Tao. Chapter 2024. Su Tao poured himself a cup of tea. The Westlake Longjing here is pretty good. Yin Yuyu was not in the mood to enjoy her tea. Her phone had been ringing nonstop. The first one to call was Han Zixuan, followed by Zheng Anru, then her manager, and finally Wang Haojuan himself. Yin Yuyu did not dare to pick up any of the calls, nor did she dare to hang up. She could only mute her phone with a pale face and stare at the screen that kept flickering. Su Tao naturally noticed Yin Yuyu's incessant calls as well. He said with a considerate expression, Yuyu, you seem to be very busy. Why don't we meet another day? Yin Yuyu calmed down a little when she heard Su Tao's voice. She stared at Su Tao excitedly and said, Brother Tao, didn't you say that Golden Era could not solve Ningxi's problem? Su Tao took a sip of his tea and sighed. It's indeed troublesome. We were lucky this time. Fortunately, we managed to get some evidence from a paparazzi that could prove Ningxi's innocence. When Yin Yuyu heard this, she revealed a suspicious expression. She felt that something was wrong, but she was too distracted to think too much about it at the moment. Damn it, all of Golden Era's resources were supposed to belong to her once Ningxi fell. Who knew that she would be suppressed by Han Zixuan instead of Ningxi? But no matter what, she only had Su Tao as her last resort. If Su Tao dared to leave her alone after he had Ningxi, then she, Yin Yuyu, was not a person to be trifled with. Yin Yuyu took a deep breath and suppressed the irritation in her heart. Brother Tao, when are you going to sign me back to Golden Era? Su Tao was surprised when he heard that. He pretended to look around frantically and said in a low voice, What? Sign you back to Golden Era? Yuyu, you can't just say that. You're doing well in Starlight now. Why would you suddenly have such an idea? Yin Yuyu's eyebrows twitched. She was stunned by Su Tao's question. Su Tao, what do you mean? Su Tao shrugged innocently. Yuyu, I really don't know why you would suddenly say something like that. Yin Yuyu couldn't believe it. She slammed the table and stood up. Su Tao, you instigated me to help you take down Han Zixuan, And now you want to renege on your promise after using me? In contrast to Yin Yuyu's rage, Su Tao leisurely sat on the chair opposite her and continued to pretend to be a big shot. You helped me take down Han Zixuan? Yuyu, why is it that I don't understand what you're saying? Yin Yuyu was so angry that she almost died. At the same time, she finally understood everything. Su Tao, you know that I have something on Han Zixuan, so you misled me and made me think that Ningxi is really going to leave the entertainment industry. Then, you told me that you would sign me back to Golden Era and give me all of Ningxi's resources as long as I get Han Zixuan down. Now that I've sent you Han Zixuan's video and helped you get rid of her, you're turning your back on me. You mean you were the one who sent those anonymous videos to me? Su Tao was surprised. With this kind of acting skills, it would be enough to enter the entertainment industry. Su Tao, you're still pretending to me even now. I'm telling you, if you push me too hard, I'll let everyone know your true colors. Yin Yuyu roared. Chapter 2025. Su Tao leaned against the back of his chair with one hand on the armrest. He chuckled. I was in a bad mood that day, so I chatted with you casually. I really didn't expect you to have so much in your head. I didn't expect you to have something on Han Zixuan. You even sent it to me. Sai Yu, why are you so muddle-headed? Don't you know that you'll be finished once this thing is exposed? Nonsense. Of course she knew. It was all because she thought that Ningxi was doomed this time. And Su Tao had promised to sign her back to Golden Era. At this moment, Yin Yu finally understood that she'd completely fallen into Su Tao's trap, and she'd fallen into this old fox's trap. Yin Yu's eyes were filled with viciousness. Su Tao, if I'm banned, you won't be able to continue in this industry. What if Golden Era and Ningxi find out that you secretly met me, an artist from Starlight, and tried to poach me? What would they think? Su Tao shook his head with a pained expression. Sai, the morals of the world are degenerating day by day. Why are the girls nowadays so scheming? Oh right, I forgot to tell you that I accidentally recorded our conversation when I was chatting with you that day. After saying that, Su Tao unlocked his phone and pressed the play button. The conversation between the two could be heard from the phone. Yin Yu listened from the beginning to the end, and her face turned paler the more she listened. Su Tao, this scoundrel, was watertight with his words. From the beginning to the end, he did not leave out a single word that could be used against him. All he did was reminisce about the past, as though he was worried about her situation because of their past relationship. If this recording was released, it would not affect Su Tao at all, but it would become the biggest evidence that she had deliberately sent Han Zixuan's video to Su Tao. Yin Yu fell into the chair behind her. She was in a daze. Su Tao, you're taking revenge on me. Su Tao chuckled. Heh, you're not important enough for me to put in so much effort. He was only doing this for his queen. Hearing Su Tao's words and thinking of how Su Tao had gone to great lengths for her in the past, Yin Yu suddenly broke down and cried loudly on the table. Big brother Tao, I was wrong. I really know I was wrong. I was blinded by greed. I was tricked by them. When Xinghui poached me, they lied to me and said that they would make me equal to Han Zixuan. This time, Xinghui definitely won't let me off. Please save me. Su Tao didn't say anything. He took one last look at the girl he brought up and turned to leave. Starlight Entertainment, conference room. Wang Haojuan's face darkened as he slammed the table. Yin Yu, did you give those videos to Su Tao? I gave it to you. What's wrong? Originally, everyone thought that Yin Yu would definitely deny it, but unexpectedly, Yin Yu didn't quibble at all. Bitch. Han Zixuan instantly pounced over and slapped Yin Yu's face. Yin Yu's fair little face was slapped to the side. Her face burned with pain, reminding Yin Yu of everything that had happened since she came to Xinghui. She thought of how Han Zixuan had suppressed her, and she thought of the desperate situation she was in after giving the videos to Su Tao. She had nothing left. She had nothing left. If it wasn't for Han Zixuan's bullying, she wouldn't have been forced to this point. After a few seconds of silence, Yin Yu instantly raised her head, raised her hand and slapped back. Chapter 2026. Han Zixuan covered her face with her hands in disbelief. Her eyes were scarlet. Bitch. You hit me. Who do you think you are? How dare you hit me? Yin Yu sneered. Ha. Han Zixuan. I should be the one saying that. Who do you think you are? You are the cancer of the entertainment industry, Ningxi's substitute, the mistress that everyone wants to kill. Do you still think you're Starlight Entertainment's #1 sister? You shameless bitch. What right do you have to act like a tyrant over my head all day? I'm telling you, I've had enough. Yin Yu, I dare you to say that again. Who do you think you are? You're just a dog by my side. The two of them cursed at each other, and eventually started fighting each other by pulling each other's hair. A few people surrounded them and finally pulled them apart. Shut up, all of you. Are you trying to rebel? Wang Haojuan was so angry that his lungs were about to explode. He had thought that after taking down Ningxi, Han Zixuan and Starlight Entertainment would be invincible, and he would have nothing to worry about anymore. Who knew that things would develop to this point? It was fine that Ningxi was cleared, but Han Zixuan was also exposed to such a huge scandal. Because of those two videos, Han Zixuan was completely ruined. The pillar that had been built up with so many resources was smashed into pieces. There was no room for recovery at all. He could only watch as Starlight Entertainment's stock price plummeted. When he found out from Han Zixuan that those videos were given to Su Tao by his own artist, he wanted to kill someone. Yin Yu, do you know how much damage you've caused to the company? Do you still have any professional ethics in your eyes? Wang Haojuan vented his anger on Yin Yu. Facing Wang Haojuan's anger, Yin Yu sneered and said, when Han Zixuan's family was acting like a tyrant, why didn't the company think about the promise they made when they poached us? Why didn't they think about the losses we would suffer? It's up to you whether you want to ban me or freeze me. I've had enough of this industry anyway. Now she finally understood how ridiculous it was for her to go back on her word and jump ship to Starlight Entertainment. If she had not betrayed Golden Era, she would not have ended up like this. At this moment, she finally regretted it. After seeing everything clearly, she finally realized the true meaning of the phrase. A man who is never content is like a snake trying to swallow an elephant. But now, it was too late to say anything. Yin Yu took a deep breath. Ignoring her agent's attempts to stop her, she slammed the door and left, cutting off Wang Haojuan's exasperated roars and Han Zixuan's curses. Late at night, Ning Xuelua was sent to the hospital because of a sudden pain in her abdomen. At this moment, both the Ning and Su families already knew what happened at the charity banquet. Zhuang Lingyu was shaking with anger. Zheng Minjun. Su Hongguang. You have taught your son well. If anything happens to Xueluo, I will definitely not let you off. Zheng Minjun was originally a little guilty, because Su Yan was going to divorce Ning Xuelua. Now that she heard Zhuang Lingyu scolding her precious son, she almost scolded her. She should be the one saying that. Zhuang Lingyu had taught her daughter well. What did Su Yan say wrong? If her daughter had not seduced Su Yan, would Su Yan have broken up with Ning Shi? If Ning Xuelua had not interfered, they would have become in-laws of the Zhuang family. If Ning Xuelua had not cried and spouted nonsense in front of that starlet, someone would not have posted it on the internet. Everyone would know that she had embarrassed the Su family. Chapter 2027. But there was no other way. Ning Xuelua was pregnant with the Su family's child, and it had been found out that it was a boy. In this case, it would be terrible if Ning Xuelua hurt her precious grandson. After all, Su Sun, that bastard, was still eyeing Su Yan. The sooner he had an heir, the better it would be for him. No matter what, she had to let Ning Xuelua get the child down first. Thinking of this, Zheng Minjun could only bear with it. She softened her tone and said, "In-law, you can't blame our Su Yan for this. You know our Su Yan's character, and he has always been so close to Xuelu. It's impossible for him to have an affair in marriage. If Ningxi hadn't secretly seduced our Su Yan, why would Su Yan take it so hard?" She said it so nicely, but I guess she's just playing hard to get. Now that girl publicized everything on the internet for her own benefit. How can our two families face each other in the future? Zheng Minjun was very unhappy when she thought of Ningxi's cold attitude towards her son. If it wasn't for the Zhuang family, Ningxi was just an actress. What was she so proud of? Therefore, Zhang Minjun simply put all the blame on Ningxi. Once Ningxi was mentioned, Zhuang Lingyu was indeed angered even more, clutching her violently heaving chest. What sin did I commit in my past life to give birth to such an evil creature? Why is she not willing to let off Xue Luo? Not willing to let off our Ning family? Ning Yaohua saw Zhuang Lingyu's emotional state and panicked. Lingyu, don't get angry. Be careful not to hurt yourself. Look at what that girl has done. How can I not be angry? She's clearly taking revenge. She just doesn't want us to have an easy time. Zhuang Lingyu was crying when Su Yan rushed over. Ning Xueluo's pregnancy was a big blow to him, and Ningxi's rejection made him even more depressed. In order to escape, he had been using the excuse of going abroad for a business trip. Who knew that such a big thing would happen in the country? After learning that Ningxi had been misunderstood and scolded by everyone because of Han Zixuan's 2 videos, he was so anxious that he immediately bought a plane ticket to return to the country. In the end, before he could do anything, the moment the plane landed, he saw the live broadcast of the charity banquet. His first reaction was to rush over to look for Ningxi. But in the end, his family gave him a call, informing him that Ningxi had a stomachache and was admitted to the hospital, asking him to hurry back. How is Xue Luo? Su Yan asked while panting slightly. When Zhuang Lingyu saw Su Yan, she was instantly angered. Do you still have Xue Luo as your wife in your eyes? Su Yan clenched his fists and lowered his head. I'm sorry. Zhang Minjun immediately went up and pushed Su Yan. Okay, I know you were fooled by Ningxi. Go to see Xue Luo and tell her. Don't let her misunderstand. Ma. Su Yan frowned. Zhang Minjun gave Su Yan a look to stop him from continuing. She quickly pushed him into the ward and continued to comfort Zhuang Lingyu and Ning Yaohua. In laws, it's normal for young couples to quarrel. As elders, we shouldn't interfere too much. Otherwise it might backfire. Besides, they even had a child. How could they divorce? Even if Su Yan was impulsive, there's still me and Hongguang. Anyway, in-laws, don't worry, we will definitely not let Xue Luo suffer. Chapter 2028. Su Hongguang added. As for Su Yan, he's already made up his mind. The problem you're worried about won't happen. Seeing Zhang Minjun and Su Hongguang's attitude, Zhuang Lingyu's expression turned for the better. After all, the culprit of this matter was Ningxi, that wicked girl. Zhuang Lingyu sighed. I know how you and Su Yan treat our Xue Luo. But now that things have come to this, how can our Xue Luo face others in the future? How can she survive in this circle? Su Hongguang quickly said. That's not a problem. Even if Ningxi and Su Yan dated first, it was something that happened before they got married. Xue Luo and Su Yan have been married for so long, and they even have a child. As long as Su Yan and Xue Luo are still in love, everyone will talk about it for a few days at most. I'll talk to Su Yan later, and ask him to make a statement that he'll handle this matter well. Don't worry, in-law. Zhuang Lingyu and Ning Yaohua nodded, satisfied. Before Su Yan entered the ward to see Ning Xue Luo, Su Hongguang called him aside. Father. Su Hongguang looked at his son and sighed. Su Yan, this matter can be big or small. You have to know that for a family's heir, marriage is very important to your image. I know. Su Yan nodded tiredly. Now everyone knows that Xue Luo is pregnant. Even if it is revealed that Ningxi dated you first, if you divorce Xue Luo at this time and abandon a pregnant woman, it will definitely have a great impact on the reputation of our Su family. Xue Luo needs to be comforted. As for Ningxi, to avoid suspicion, it's best not to get too close to her. Su Hongguang reminded him sternly. It was obviously not the right time for a divorce. Su Yan's pupils constricted. He was already too embarrassed to face Xue Luo's pregnancy. This time, Ningxi was almost forced to a dead end because of him. How could he not care? Su Hongguang patted his son's shoulder and comforted him. Su Yan, father understands your thoughts. To achieve great things, one must know how to be patient. Right now, everything has to wait until Xue Luo gives birth to the child, understand? Su Yan took a deep breath and suppressed the surging emotions in his heart. Father, I understand. In the ward, Ning Xuelua's eyes were red as she leaned against the headboard. Ning Xuelua slowly turned around when she heard familiar footsteps. The moment she saw the man, the tears that she had been holding back for a long time fell. Brother Yan. Looking at the girl who was pregnant with his flesh and blood, Su Yan awkwardly averted his eyes. After a long silence, he only said 3 words. I'm sorry. She listened to Su Yan's sorry, and how he admitted to everything without even trying to defend himself. Ning Xuelua clenched her fists tightly under the blanket. She hid the ferocious look in her eyes, and looked even more miserable. She smiled bitterly and said, Actually, I knew. I should have known. Sister is so beautiful. She's so outstanding. No matter how hard I try, I can't catch up to her. One day, you'll still return to her side, whether it's in the past or now. I've never thought of fighting with you. If it's possible, I'm willing. I'm willing to help you. Chapter 2029. Ning Xuelua sobbed and touched her belly with her trembling fingers. Brother Yan, as long as you're happy, I'll do anything. But Brother Yan, there's nothing I can do. Our child. What about our child? Su Yan sat on the edge of the bed and wiped away the girl's tears with his fingers. His heart was numb and his tone was calm. Don't think too much. It's impossible for me and Xiaoxi. In the past, every time Ning Xuelua cried in front of him, he would have infinite strength and the desire to protect her. He would do anything to protect her. Now her tears were like a deep pool of poison to him. He couldn't breathe and just wanted to get rid of it. Hearing Su Yan's words, Ning Xuelua's face didn't look better at all. Instead, it became paler. Was it just because it was impossible for him and Ningxi now? What if it was possible for him and Ningxi? What if she wasn't pregnant? Or after her child was born? Would he immediately kick her away and couldn't wait to marry Ningxi? Ning Xuelua's fingers, which were on her abdomen, clenched tightly. Her eyes darkened. 2 days later, Su Yan posted on Weibo. The content was through hardships. In the picture, he and Ning Xuelua were holding hands. In the past 2 days, Ningxi's fans and some passers-by had been cursing Su Yan and Ning Xuelua. However, Ning Xuelua was pregnant, and she had been married for so long. Now Su Yan had chosen a family. No matter how much they felt for Ningxi, it was not appropriate for them to meddle in other people's family affairs. The cursing on the internet gradually died down. During this period, Yin Yu suddenly posted a statement, announcing her permanent retirement from the entertainment industry. If this news was released alone, it would be enough to cause a sensation in the entertainment industry. However, because of the headline of Han Zixuan being banned, Yin Yu's retirement from the entertainment industry only caused a small stir. Soon, everyone's attention was shifted to Han Zixuan. This time, Han Zixuan's image was completely ruined. She was banned from the entire entertainment industry, even though she was unwilling to give up. Even the most inferior entertainment companies were not willing to hire her. Ning Xuelua was also completely uncontactable. Central square of the capital. Han Zixuan wore a big pair of sunglasses and got out of the car. Yi Sudong suddenly took the initiative to send her a text message, asking her to meet up. Now Yi Sudong was no longer the general manager of Shengshi Entertainment. He had opened his own entertainment company, but it didn't make much money. It had been operating at a loss. If it weren't for his wife, he would have closed down a long time ago. Han Zixuan was full of contempt for Yi Sudong, but at this moment, she was at her wit's end. She had used all her savings since her debut to pay for the breach of contract, and even the property under her name had been taken away by the court. She was used to living a life of luxury. She couldn't live a day without money. But Zheng Anru actually wanted to sell her like a prostitute to those upstarts and coal bosses who she had disdained in the past. How could she endure it? Han Zixuan looked left and right carefully, then quickly walked in the direction of the restaurant not far away. However, just as he got out of the car and took a few steps, his vision suddenly darkened. As soon as she raised her head, she saw 2 fierce-looking burly men blocking her way with ill intent. Han Zixuan's expression suddenly changed, and she subconsciously took a step back. You. Chapter 2030. At this time, The two black-faced bodyguards separated and took a step to the sides. A fat, luxuriously dressed woman walked out from behind them. Her gaze swept over Han Zixian's body like a knife. "You're Han Zixian?" Seeing that the person was Yi Sudong's wife, Jiang Monli, Han Zixuan's first reaction was to turn and run. However, she only managed to take one step before a hand grabbed her hair and pulled her back, slamming her hard onto the ground. "Bitch, you still want to run?" Jiang Monli was very strong. Her fat and wide hand almost tore her scalp. She looked down at the woman who had fallen at her feet. Looking at her gorgeously dressed appearance and her slender waist, she thought of the unsightly scenes in the video and her conversation with Yi Sudong. Those two bitches actually called her a disgusting fat woman. Jiang Monli's face was extremely gloomy. "Bitch, you like to strip, don't you? I'll let you strip as much as you want. Strip this vixen's clothes for me. Let everyone have a look at her." The bodyguards at the side received the order and immediately rushed forward like wolves. "Oh no. Go away. Go away. What do you want to do?" Han Zixuan screamed in panic and covered her clothes. She had always been a goddess that could only be watched from afar and not played with. When had she ever suffered such humiliation? The bodyguard did not have any protective feelings for the fairer sex. Seeing that she resisted, he directly slapped her face. And she was wearing very thin clothes today. The material could not withstand the pull at all. Soon it was shredded into pieces and hung on her body. It was the peak time of the meal. The square was full of people and passers-by stopped. "Wow. What's going on? The wife is hitting the mistress." The commotion had already attracted a large number of onlookers. When the bodyguard slapped Han Zixuan's sunglasses off, after seeing Han Zixuan's face clearly, there was a burst of gasps from the onlookers who were watching the show. "Damn. Isn't that Han Zixuan? Damn. Oh my god. It's really her. It's really Han Zixuan. That fat woman looks like Yi Sudong's wife. Damn, this is too explosive. Hurry up and record the video. Record the video. Help? Help me. Help me call the police. Ah." Everyone around was taking photos and recording videos, watching with relish. No one stepped forward. Bystanders loved to watch this kind of drama where the legal wife tore the mistress apart. It was fine if they didn't step forward and step on it, but why would they be a busybody? "Slut, who gave you the guts to play with my man? I'll play you to death today." As Jiang Monli spoke, she suddenly pulled a person out from the corner. "How is it? Your little lover is so pitiful. Do you feel sorry for him?" Yi Sudong's forehead was drenched in cold sweat. "Honey, I'm innocent. Why would I feel sorry for this kind of prostitute who can be taken by anyone? Back then, she drugged me. I didn't do it willingly. I was forced. Honey, you must believe me. Don't you know how I feel about you? How could I fall for such a whore?" When Han Zixuan saw Yi Sudong appear, she still had a glimmer of hope. But now, looking at this man's shameless face, she was dumbfounded. "Yi Sudong, are you still a man? Why didn't she realize that this man was such a coward who was afraid of his wife?" Chapter 2031. Han Zixuan glared at Yi Sudong fiercely. She knelt on the ground and begged for mercy. "Mrs. Yi, I was wrong. I know I was wrong. Please forgive me this time." However, Jiang Monli was not so easy to talk to. She got someone to bring a chair to the side and sat down. She let Yi Sudong massage her shoulders while she ordered her men to continue. It wasn't until the police arrived that the farce finally ended. However, this scene had already been spread to every inch of the internet by countless passers-by through photos, videos, and even live broadcasts. Han Zixuan did not know how she escaped from that nightmarish place. In her panic, she rushed into an underground parking lot. A car drove over from the front and braked abruptly, making an ear-piercing sound. The car stopped dangerously in front of Han Zixuan. A man quickly opened the car door and got out to check the situation. He realized that the person who suddenly rushed out was a woman with messy hair and disheveled clothes. After seeing the woman's face, the man was stunned. Han Zixuan. Han Zixuan saw that the person who got out of the car was someone familiar. She was also stunned. "Su. Mr. Su. You." Su Yin frowned. Han Zixuan looked dazed. Unable to speak, she squatted on the ground and cried. Su Yan saw that Han Zixuan's bare skin was full of scratches from a woman's nails. He seemed to have guessed something, but he did not say it out loud. After all, if Han Zixuan had not exposed her conversation with Xue Luo, things would not have developed to this stage. The misunderstanding between him and Ning, she would not have deepened. Therefore he did not have a good impression of Han Zixuan. Su Yan frowned. He threw down a jacket and drove away. Han Zixuan was full of resentment. She clutched the jacket in her hand and stared in the direction of the car. Zealing Studio. Wow wow wow. Super big gossip. Boss, look, Han Zixuan was stripped naked and beaten by Yi Sudong's wife. It's all over the internet. It's so satisfying. Han Momo hugged her phone and rushed toward Ningxi. She was so excited that her face was red. Ningxi only glanced at it before moving her gaze away, her interest waning. Her gaze once again landed on Gong Shang's manuscript, and she washed her eyes. Ning Xuelua and Su Yan are so annoying. How dare they show off their love in public? Han Momo said indignantly. Ningxi looked helpless and doting. Don't read gossip all day long. The Lorraine International Fashion Competition will be held next month. Have you arranged the schedule? I've already arranged it. I won't delay my work. Be good. History is simply too shameless. They followed our trend again and again, and even accused us of plagiarism. This time we must beat them down. Han Momo said angrily. Ningxi saw that Gong Shangzi didn't say anything and looked a little distracted. She put down the manuscript and walked over. Aze, what are you thinking about? Gong Shangzi wanted to say something but hesitated. Then he shook his head. Boss, it's fine. Ningxi narrowed her eyes and asked tentatively. Does Daiwei still have your manuscripts? Gong Shangzi bit his lip. I've done some calculations. The manuscript should be gone, but I'm not entirely sure if I've missed anything. Ningxi knew what Gong Shangzi was worried about. To him, the hardest thing was to surpass himself. Gong Shangzi pursed his lips and looked up at Ningxi. Boss, will you be there then? Ningxi nodded. Of course. How can I not be there at such an important moment? I should be filming in Lorraine then, so I'll definitely be there. Gong Shangzi's uneasy expression gradually disappeared after hearing Ningxi's words. His clear eyes were unusually bright. Boss, I won't let you down. Ningxi chuckled. I believe you. Gong Shangzi then said a little embarrassedly. Boss, can I go to Deer Town and disturb you and Mr. Lu for a few days? Hearing this, Ningxi immediately said readily. Of course. You'll get a lot of inspiration there, won't you? I can't even bear to leave. Gong Shangzi didn't explain and just nodded. Okay. Chapter 2032. Dear Town. What should I do? It's vomiting milk again. Ningxi held the bottle in one hand and the little white tiger in the other. She was flustered. Little Treasure was also anxious. He was about to cry when he saw the little white tiger's uncomfortable appearance. Lu Tingxiao pinched his brows. Let me do it. With that said, he carefully passed little white tiger over, patted its back, and then changed his position to feed it milk. This time, the little white tiger finally drank the milk successfully. How loving! Ningxi held her chin and looked at her with admiration. Sweetheart, did you also feed Xiaobao like this when he was young? Before Lu Tingxiao could speak, Little Treasure shook his head like a rattle drum, and betrayed a certain someone without hesitation. You never fed me milk. Pfft, Ningxi laughed. How do you know? You remember such a small thing? Little Treasure continued to undermine her and said with certainty, This is a normal guess. Lu Tingxiao glanced at his son and coughed softly. He looked helpless but could not refute. All right, he was too busy at that time. Plus, he had no feelings for this son who was not part of his plans. He did not even see him many times, much less feed him milk. Little Treasure looked up at his mother. When heaven is about to bestow a great responsibility on a man, it must first torture his mind, tire his bones and muscles, starve his body, empty his body, and mess up his actions. Fate must have made me go through these trials, so that I could meet Mommy. Ningxi's heart was aching when she saw Little Treasure's bright eyes saying these words to her in an unusually serious manner. She was taken aback at first, then she hugged the little fellow and kissed him. She smiled and said, "Baby, why are you so cute?" Lu Tingxiao, who had been ridiculed inexplicably, was speechless. Torture his mind, tire his bones and muscles, and starve his body. Did he mistreat him like that? He felt like he had been tricked. At the same time, by the emerald green lake, the little deer drank water leisurely. Birds flew across the lake. Gong Shang's back was facing the surface of the lake as he sat cross-legged on the grass. He held a pen and paper in his hand as he looked intently at the family of three not far away. His eyes were filled with a dazzling light. The nimble tip of the pen seemed to have a life of its own as it sketched on the draft paper. Lu Jingli hid far away from Ningxi and his brother. He hugged half a watermelon and squatted next to Gong Shangza. He used a spoon to dig, and from time to time he would glance at Gong Shangza, who was furiously writing. After squatting for an unknown period of time, the number of pink bubbles on the other side was almost suffocating, but Gong Shangza still didn't move. Lu Jingli really couldn't hold it in anymore. He looked at Gong Shangza as if he was looking at a god and sighed in amazement. "This little brother. You are really very courageous." This was the first time he had seen someone take the initiative to come and eat dog food, and eat it so seriously. When Gong Shangza heard this, he looked at him suspiciously, not understanding what Lu Jingli meant. "Second young master, what about me?" Lu Jingli patted his shoulder earnestly and said with a pained expression, "You're a single dog. Doesn't it hurt your heart to look at this?" Gong Shangza tilted his head and looked at Lu Jingli with some surprise. "How can it be? I'm very happy." Lu Jingli was speechless as the corner of his mouth twitched. The thinking of a genius was indeed different from that of a normal person. Chapter 2033. While the entertainment industry was still indulging in extravagance and gossiping about cheating and mistresses, the international economic market had changed, and the economic pages of major magazines and newspapers were full of bloody battles every day. Lu Enterprises and Lu Tingxiao's names appeared as frequently as Ningxi's in the entertainment pages. And the man who controlled the fate of Hua Nation in everyone's eyes was holding his wife's little hand and trimming her nails attentively. The phone rang. Lu Tingxiao couldn't free his hand, so he asked Ningxi to answer it for him. Ningxi answered the phone with her free hand and put the phone to Lu Tingxiao's ear. Lu Tingxiao was polishing his wife's nails with a file while talking to the person on the other end of the phone. "You are flattering me. As a citizen of Hua Nation, this is my duty." Lu Tingxiao said a lot of professional jargon and economic stuff, but Ningxi couldn't understand a word. She just felt that Lu Tingxiao's tone was a bit strange. "Use the other hand," Lu Tingxiao reminded her. Oh, Ningxi immediately used the other hand to answer the phone and handed it to Lu Tingxiao to continue trimming. She didn't know what the person on the other end of the phone said, but Lu Tingxiao's face suddenly softened and he answered in a cello-like hoarse voice, "My wife." When Lu Tingxiao finished the phone call, Ningxi's nails had been trimmed like a work of art. "Sweetheart, who was on the phone just now?" Ningxi asked casually. Lu Tingxiao replied with a name. "Damn it." Ningxi almost spat out blood. "Then why aren't you concentrating?" He was calling that man while trimming her claws. She suddenly felt that her claws were sinful. That man actually called her in the middle of the night, which showed that the situation was really tricky this time. But it was also a good thing. At least Lu Tingxiao was not alone, but the whole country. "I am very focused." The man held the girl's tender fingers and kissed them gently. Ningxi was speechless. Was he concentrating on trimming her claws? Ningxi's feet were in the air. She was picked up by the waist and carried from the living room upstairs to the bedroom. Xiaobao was sleeping in the next room. "Do you need to get up early tomorrow?" The man gently placed the girl on the soft bedding. At the same time, his slender fingers nimbly undid the small and exquisite plum-shaped buttons on her cheongsam. A corner of the loose collar faintly revealed a fair and delicate collarbone, causing the man's gaze to suddenly turn deep. In the next second, a scorching tongue had already covered the warm jade-like skin. Ningxi's body trembled slightly. "Well, I don't have work tomorrow, but I have an appointment with Jiang Mai. I'm going to help him with his cross-dressing. And The man responded, indicating that he understood. In the end, the sky outside the window was turning white, and the chirping of birds could be heard. In the bedroom, Ningxi was dizzy. Every strand of her hair was soaked. She had no strength in her body, but the man in front of her still didn't know fatigue. When Ningxi woke up again, it was almost noon, not to mention morning. It was already the next evening, and the sky was almost dark. Ningxi scratched her head and took out her phone in a hurry. Sure enough, her phone was about to explode from Jiang Mai's continuous calls. Chapter 2034. Ningxi changed her clothes and went downstairs weakly. From afar, he could see Xiaobao taking care of the little white tiger in the courtyard. Meanwhile, a certain someone was holding a newspaper in his hand. He was dressed in home clothes and was sitting on a rattan chair under a flower rack with his head propped up. Ningxi ran up to him and glared at him angrily. Lu Tingxiao's Adam's apple moved slightly when he saw the fiery look in his little wife's eyes. He put down the newspaper in his hand and pulled her to sit on his lap. His large palm gently massaged her sore waist. "What's wrong?" "Press up a little," Ningxi said with a dark face. "Why did you ask?" "I told you I had something to do today," Lu Tingxiao said. "I only did it once." Looking at his innocent face, Ningxi was furious. "Then did I feed the dogs the other times?" Lu Tingxiao smiled. "It was Madam's request. Have you forgotten?" Damn it. She really did ask for it. The problem was, how could she resist him when he took the initiative to seduce her? She finally understood why there were so many incapable rulers in history who were blinded by lust. Anyway, it was already night when Ningxi went to find Jiang Mai. Ningxi used all her strength to appease this little ancestor. "Don't waste time. Go and change." Looking at Ningxi's eager look, Jiang Mai was even angrier. This guy was so eager to see him in women's clothes, but he was late for the whole day and didn't wake up until the afternoon. He could easily figure out what he had been up to last night. Ningxi waited in the living room anxiously. Jiang Mai dawdled for more than half an hour before the bedroom door finally opened. "Is it done?" Ningxi turned her head anxiously. The next second, Ningxi covered her eyes and rolled miserably on the sofa. "Fuck. My fucking eyes." Seeing Ningxi's reaction, Jiang Mai was furious. He rushed over in his high heels. "Ning Xiaoxi, what do you mean by this?" Jiang Mai was wearing a bright red dress and 12-centimeter high heels. He had wavy blonde hair, smoky makeup, and red lips. That scene was simply Ningxi clutched her chest. "Even if I'm late, you can't take revenge on me like this." Jiang Mai furrowed his brows. "Is it bad for me to be like this? But I followed Carl's image completely." Ningxi opened her eyes with difficulty and looked at Jiang Mai. "The actor who played the original Carl was smaller than you, and he didn't look as sharp as you. Of course, it's okay to dress like this, but it's shocking to see you imitate him like this." "Then what do you think we should do?" Soon, they would go to Lorraine to shoot scenes. His cross-dressing scenes were about to start. Even though he had read the script so many times, the role this time was too challenging. He was really not confident. When the time came, there would be a professional to fix his makeup. But before that, he had to be prepared, so he asked Ningxi to come over to consult. Originally, Lei Ming said that he would arrange a professional stylist for him, but he firmly refused. Ningxi pinched her eyebrows. "All right, change your clothes and I'll help you redo your makeup. You're wasting God's gift recklessly." "Can you do it?" Jiang Mai looked at her worriedly. "Trust my taste, okay? I'm just afraid that you'll fall in love with yourself later." Jiang Mai. Chapter 2035. She had long, straight black hair, a tight black sequin skirt, a flight jacket, and a pair of handsome Martin boots. She didn't deliberately use feminine makeup. She just slightly deepened her eyeliner and adjusted her lip color. Although she was dressed as a woman, she retained Jiang Mai's own characteristics, which were wild and unruly. When Jiang Mai opened his eyes, he saw himself like this. It was totally not as unacceptable as he had imagined. Ningxi held her chin and looked at the beauty in front of her with sparkling eyes. Oh, Jiang Mai. Even if you ask me to climb a mountain of swords or plunge into a pot of boiling oil, I'd be willing. Jiang Mai was speechless. She was talking to him in a flirting tone. Shut up. You look so cute when you say shut up. Ning Xiaoxi. Fortunately, he was relieved after hearing Ning Shi's words. His masochism was getting worse and worse. Ning Shi rolled her eyes. What do you think? Shall we go and check the result? Jiang Mai looked at her with vigilance, as if she was up to no good. How are you going to test it? Go to a bar. If a man strikes up a conversation with you, it means you have succeeded. No thank you. I can tell from the way you look at me that I'm successful enough. Jiang Mai refused resolutely. Ning Shi expressed her regret. Lorraine, China. Lorraine International Fashion Week was around the corner. Ning Shi had rushed there in advance because she had to shoot the killer. A few days later, Ziling's team also flew to this fashion city to prepare for the important battle in the coming week. Lorraine was famous for its beauty and fashion. This city was the holy land for women all over the world who pursued fashion. It was also the paradise and cradle of all excellent designers. The history of fashion was the history of Lorraine. Up to now, Lorraine's fashion style still had a great influence on top designers in various countries. The Lorraine Fashion Week had a supreme position in the fashion world. It determined the fashion trends of the year and the following year. Every year, designers from all over the world would present nearly 100 fashion shows in 7 days to convey the latest trends to the global fashionistas. Nowadays, History, one of the most representative brands of Chinese style, became famous because of its brilliance on the stage of Lorraine Fashion Week. It became the representative of Chinese style in the international fashion circle, and was highly respected by domestic fashion people. History had also participated last year. Although it wasn't as stunning as the first time, its performance was still remarkable. For Ziling, this was her first appearance on the international stage. This time in Lorraine, most of the scenes were about Jiang Mai. Ning Shi's schedule in Lorraine was very relaxed. After finishing the filming for the day, he rushed to the airport to pick them up. From afar he saw Gong Shangzi, Qiao Weilan and Han Momo. Boss. Here. Han Momo waved her hands in the crowd and rushed to Ning Shi happily. Gong Shangzi lagged a few steps behind, holding a suitcase in his hand. He stared blankly at the sky above Luoyang City, a little out of sorts. Luoyang City. This was the city that had given him endless hope and vitality, and had once pushed him into the abyss. He had finally set foot on this land. He had finally returned to this place. Say, let's go. A warm voice sounded. Yes. Gong Shangzi looked at the person beside him. His wandering thoughts that were floating in midair slowly retracted, transforming into infinite power. This time he was no longer alone. Chapter 2036. Boss, the plain food is terrible. I'm so hungry. Han Momo's eyes were filled with tears. Ning Shi rubbed the little girl's hair. Let's go. I'll take you to eat something delicious first. After putting the luggage in the car, Ning Shi drove the three of them to a famous local Michelin restaurant. Wow. 3 Michelin stars. Will it be very expensive? Ning Shi laughed. Don't worry. You can't eat your boss. The 4 of them found a quiet seat by the window and sat down. Han Momo began to order food attentively, while Qiao Weilan began to report to Ning Shi. Gong Shangzi looked at a corner not far from the window and suddenly said, "That used to be my seat." Ning Shi looked in the direction of Gong Shangzi's gaze, and saw a black beggar lying on his back, snoring loudly. Ning Shi froze for a moment, and then smiled. What a coincidence. It's true. It seemed to be the place where she met Gong Shangzi for the first time. There was a history store less than 300 meters away from there. That day, after buying clothes at History, she bumped into Gong Shangzi, who was looking for trouble on the street. What? Is that the place where you found our director Gong? Han Momo was immediately interested, and began to ask about the details of Ning Shi and Gong Shangzi's encounter. Qiao Weilan also looked over with interest. Yes, it's been too long. I didn't remember it just now. The 4 of them were talking happily. Just then, the door of the restaurant opened and a group of 7 or 8 people came in one after another. The leader was a man in his 30s with a sleek face and a short stature. The person behind him was wearing a high-end Armani suit and a Patek Philippe wristband worth millions. It turned out to be a big acquaintance. Damn. Isn't that Dai Wei? Enemies are bound to meet on a narrow road. How could we meet them? Han Momo said excitedly. That group was the design team of history. The leader was Lu Minghui, Dai Wei's assistant and the deputy design director of history. In Han Momo's words, he was Dai Wei's henchman. Dai Wei and the others were talking and didn't notice their direction. Then they sat down in a semi-enclosed box not far from them. Although they couldn't see the other party's words were clearly heard by Ning Shi and the others. Boss's work this time is too amazing. It'll definitely make those foreigners' eyes pop out. One of them said excitedly. Boss is still the best. You can actually think of such a brilliant idea. This idea will definitely be popular. The one who spoke was Lu Minghui. The workmanship and skills are also top-notch. It would take at least a year and a half to produce it. Boss must have been preparing since a long time ago. He actually hid it from us and didn't tell anyone. Listening to the exaggerated compliments, Han Momo curled her lips disdainfully and said, You really know how to brag. Why don't they go to heaven? Ning Shi smiled and said nothing. Gong Shangzi was no longer as excited to see Dai Wei again. However, as he listened to the words that came from the other side, his brows furrowed imperceptibly. After going back, he compared all of Dai Wei's published works against his stolen design manuscripts to make sure he didn't miss anything. He knew that in addition to the design team on the surface, Dai Wei also had a group of people in private. There were quite a few masters among them. He didn't know what Dai Wei did to make them willing to work for him. Otherwise, Dai Wei wouldn't have lasted until now. The works that were exhibited this time were probably made by those people. Chapter 2037. 2 days later, Lorraine Fashion Week officially kicked off. The scene was full of stars and famous designers. This was not only the most anticipated moment for fashion lovers and supermodels, but also the best opportunity for new designers to show their talents and enter the international fashion circle. At this time, the entertainment section of the domestic media was already flooded with reports about the show. If it wasn't about a certain celebrity receiving an invitation, then it was about a certain celebrity stunning the audience on the red carpet. On the social media accounts of many celebrities and even internet celebrities, they all posted pictures of themselves in fancy clothes going to the show. In fact, as a top international fashion show, Lorraine Fashion Week could only be entered with an invitation from a brand or an investor, even if it was a first-rate superstar. During the Fashion Week, 40% of the invitations would be sent to the top fashion media from all over the world, 30% to well-known fashion buyers, 10% to guests invited by the brand, 10% to top clients, and 10% to spare. In other words, only 10% of the celebrities in the entertainment industry were invited, and most of them weren't qualified to sit in the front row. The arrangement of each row showed the status of the guests in the fashion industry. Those who could sit in the front row were all distinguished VIPs. Those second- and third-rate internet celebrities who posted pictures online seemed to have been invited, but in fact, these people did not even have a seat. They had all come at their own expense to walk the red carpet and act cool to deceive passers-by who did not know what was going on. The official venue was set at the Grand Palace of Lorraine. The crystal chandeliers hanging above the palace resembled a galaxy in the night sky. The simple and luxurious hall had been transformed into a long catwalk, and on both sides of the catwalk were seats for the guests. All the invited celebrities racked their brains to wear gorgeous gowns and elegantly walk on the red carpet, giving the cameraman the most perfect view. Then they took their seats one by one. In the past, the International Fashion Week wasn't open to the public. However, with the popularization of live broadcasts, ordinary people could now watch the grand event from their homes. A popular Chinese video website had won the right to broadcast the event. Everyone enthusiastically scrolled through the screen, exclaiming and commenting on the celebrities' outfits. Oh, I saw my idol Orlando. My idol is so handsome. The flowery shirt is so coquettish. Oh my god, what is Su Jiaojia wearing? Did she wear the flowery quilt from her own house? That's too shocking. He's going all out for the sake of attracting attention. Why do I seem to see Ning Xueluo? Didn't she quit the entertainment industry a long time ago? He actually sat in the first row. In the entire Chinese entertainment industry, only Song Lin has the right to sit in the first row, and that's because she's the spokesperson of the Chinese region. However, Song Lin is already semi-retired. She didn't even show up this time. Ningxi's status is also good, but Ningxi doesn't seem to have any endorsement deals with big brands, so she can't get an invitation? You probably don't know about this. Other than the guests, the first row is filled with industry insiders. Although Ning Xueluo isn't a celebrity in the entertainment industry, she is the founder of history. No wonder. Under the envious gazes of the Chinese female stars sitting at the back, Ning Xueluo sat down in the first row in a loose history dress and luxurious stone jewelry. So what if I quit the entertainment circle? She had always disdained that circle of people who were always inferior in the eyes of the celebrities. Chapter 2038. Some domestic media reporters immediately greeted him enthusiastically and asked a question. Ms. Ning, this is the third time history has represented China on the stage of International Fashion Week. What do you have to say about this? Ning Xueluo put on a generous smile on her face. I'm honored to be recognized by so many professionals. I'm also honored to represent China on the world stage and show the beauty of China to the world. Ning Xueluo's answer immediately received a lot of praise from many patriots. Ning Xueluo's character aside, she's indeed quite capable. She's also contributing to the promotion of Chinese culture. Meanwhile, Dai Wei also received a lot of praise from the media. Mr. Dai, 2 years ago, history's Chinese design shocked the world and set off a wave of Chinese style in the international fashion industry. Last year's performance was slightly mediocre. I wonder if history will surprise us again in this show? Dai Wei, who was asked by foreign reporters, had a proud look on his face. When he heard that the performance was slightly mediocre last year, his face slightly stiffened. However, he quickly said confidently, "This work is the result of 2 years of hard work. I believe it won't disappoint you." At this time, many reporters suddenly headed in the direction of the door. At the same time, the live broadcast began to crazily chat. Brother Shi is here. Compared to the female celebrities who were competing with each other tonight, Ningxi was wearing a simple champagne-colored 2-piece suit and a 1-piece skirt. Other than the embroidery embellishments on the skirt and collar, there was no extra decoration. It was clean and neat, which was very different from what the media had expected. In the International Fashion Week, the invited guests were all invited to watch the shows. But now, more and more people were treating the shows as a show, a vanity fair to gain attention and fame, especially in China, where the situation was even more serious. Ningxi's simple and decent outfit, which was not too grand, won the favor of many foreign media and industry insiders. Moreover, the news of Ningxi's participation in The Assassin gave Ningxi a lot of exposure internationally. At this time, many foreign reporters came up to interview her, breaking the cold treatment of Chinese celebrities. The fans in the live broadcast were also excited when they saw this. Seeing that Ningxi was in the limelight, Ning Xueluo's face immediately turned gloomy. However, when he saw Ningxi walking towards the back, his brows relaxed again. Although Ningxi had a lot of endorsements, she didn't endorse any clothing brand, so it was impossible for her to get invitations from big-name clothing brands. Anonymous invitations from magazines and media would be very far behind, and she might not even have a seat. Ning Xueluo sat in the first row calmly. She glanced at Ningxi, who walked straight to the last row with a mocking gaze. So what if he reached the top of the entertainment circle? In this circle he was still nothing. Ning Xueluo was in a good mood chatting with a few industry insiders around her, but she was stunned the next second. After Ningxi greeted Qin Shuang in the last row and said a few words, she got up and walked in the direction of the first row, and then sat down in one of the empty seats. Chapter 2039. Ning Xueluo's expression turned sour, but it soon turned into mockery and disdain. He didn't know what method that slut used to sit here. Heh, she was the so-called top female star in the Chinese entertainment industry after all. She still had to do this. However, everyone knew that she was obviously not qualified, but she still forced herself to be there. She was just trying to fool the ignorant fans. On the stage, the host announced the official opening of the Fashion Week. Everyone's attention was focused on the runway. All the big brands showed up one after another, bringing their spring and summer collections for the next season. It was an unparalleled visual feast for the eyes. The people in the live broadcast were amazed. At the same time, they were all looking forward to the appearance of the Chinese brands. When is our history going to be on? I'm looking forward to it. I saw the itinerary. It's today. There's also ON, which is also from China. ON is not bad, but it doesn't have the characteristics of our country. I still prefer history. I heard that Zailing is also qualified to enter this time. Ah, the Zailing who has been following history? Every year, brands from various countries would come to participate in the Fashion Week. They had a certain influence in their country and could represent the characteristics of their country. The designers also had to reach the top comprehensive standards in their country. After the qualification review by the Fashion Week jury, they would finally be able to receive an official invitation. This time, there were only 3 Chinese brands that passed the review. One of them was ON under Chu Guanyang, who is known as the top Chinese designer in China. Another was History, and the last one was Zailing. Chu Guanyang was the first Chinese designer to enter the attention of the international fashion circle, but his style had always been international. History was the first Chinese brand to shine in the international fashion circle. In the beginning, Zailing still had a chance to compete with History. However, after a year of hiding, it had almost disappeared from the domestic market, let alone the international market. It was only after the recent 2 series of new products were well received that it gradually recovered. However, it was inevitable that it would be treated as a dispensable accompaniment, and even as a brand that followed History. It was completely submerged in the glory of History. This was how the industry was. Everyone only remembered the first place. All the Chinese fashion lovers who were watching the live broadcast were eagerly waiting for their own brands to appear. Even the industry insiders had been paying more and more attention to the Chinese style in recent years. After Chu Guanyang's runway show ended, the name History finally appeared on the big screen. Countless Hua Guofeng followers held their breaths as they looked at the stage. Even the godfather of fashion, Ada, sat up straight and focused on the stage. Accompanied by the melodious sound of an ancient zither, models in custom-made historical suits appeared one after another. When the models walked out one by one, the crowd burst into exclamations. Everyone's eyes lit up, because it was simply too beautiful. The concept of Zen in traditional Chinese culture was vividly reflected. Every piece of clothing exuded a strong Chinese charm. Every line and every stitch of embroidery embodies the subtle, gentle, and majestic Chinese culture. What was most valuable was that these rainbow-colored feather garments allowed the world to see traditional handicrafts such as silk, Su embroidery, and Panjin embroidery, which contained ancient China's wisdom. Chapter 2040. Oh my God! This is so beautiful! Is this the legendary Chinese craftsmanship? If I'm not mistaken, these sets of clothes are made using silk embroidery from the Tang dynasty. The craftsmanship is very complicated. Just a few feet would take months. This is so special. What a magical Chinese culture. The industry insiders and even the designers who were biased against the Chinese style could not help but be amazed by the exquisite Nikhang feather garments on the models. At that moment, the Hua Nation fans in the live streaming channel were even more excited and filled with pride. Wow. Beautiful, 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 beautiful. Our country's culture is amazing. This is great. History did not let us down. Tremble. This is the traditional culture of our Dehua Nation. I think I'm going to become a fan of Ning Shualuo. Amidst the overwhelming praise, no one noticed that in a certain corner of the dim light, a delicate and handsome young man's face was deathly pale, and his trembling lips were almost bleeding from his biting. Neon. Clothing. Feather. Clothing. His Nikhang feather garment. It took him half a year to complete the design, and another 2 years to learn the skills from the old craftsman. Finally, he made the rainbow feather garment with his own hands. Dai Wei had lied to him about the Nikhang feather garment that had been destroyed in a fire in the sample room. Now it had appeared on the runway of Lorraine International Fashion Week, right in front of him. It was not the joy of regaining something he had lost, but anger and hatred. It was the heart-wrenching pain of having one's own flesh and blood dug out by someone else. Gong Shang's eyes were bloodshot, and the veins on his forehead were popping. His chest was rising and falling more violently. His handsome face was almost hideous, and it was as if all the blood in his body was flowing in reverse. Not far away, Ningxi had a bad feeling the moment history's work appeared. Her first reaction was to look at Gong Shang's reaction. Sure enough, Gong Shang's face was getting uglier and uglier. The young man looked like he was on the verge of breaking down. Ningxi had never seen Gong Shang's so agitated before. Shit. Ningxi frowned when she saw this. It seemed that Dai Wei's so-called 2 years of painstaking work was actually Gong Shang's design. It wasn't just the blueprints. All of these ready-made clothes might have been personally made by Gong Shangza. She remembered that she had heard Gong Shangza say more than once that the most perfect work of his life had been destroyed in an accidental fire. That set of clothes was called Rainbow Feather Robe. Could it be? History's work once again stunned the world, and the domestic and foreign media swarmed to interview the chief designer, Dai Wei. A foreign reporter. Director Dai, your work this time is really amazing. Where did your inspiration come from? Dai Wei replied proudly with a smile on his face, of course it's from the 5,000 years of Chinese culture. One of the Hua Nation reporters said excitedly, well said, Director Dai. May I know what ancient designs are used in these clothes? I heard that they were all handmade by you. Is that true? Dai Wei nodded and said, I use silk, Su embroidery and Panjin embroidery techniques. I completed the design alone, but the production was done by me and my team. They also put in a lot of effort. Director Dai, you're too humble. As everyone knows, design is the soul of clothing. Also, Mr. Dai, your design this time is even more outstanding than the full spring garden from 2 years ago. May I know the name of your series theme this time? The reporter asked. Dai Wei replied, Rainbow Feather Robe. Chapter 2041. The moment she heard those words, Ningxi's pupils constricted and a bone-piercing chill appeared in her eyes. It really was the rainbow feather raiment. Dai Wei was so arrogant that he did not even change a single word. No wonder Gong Shangza had such an expression. Ningxi looked at the young man who was like a burning flame in the darkness, and pondered for a moment. She picked up her phone, composed a message and pressed the send button. Gong Shangza felt his phone vibrate and forced himself to unlock it. His vision was blurry as he opened the message. The moment he saw the message, the anger that was rampaging through his body, and almost made him dizzy, instantly calmed down like a pacified beast. The crowd was filled with praises and the live stream was still flooding the screen. Dai Wei, who was surrounded by the media, was still talking about his journey. In the corner, a young man slowly took off the mask on his face and stood up. He stood straight in the crowd and said word by word, The rainbow feather raiment is my design. It's a work of my own hands. This voice was like a bucket of cold water being poured into a burning flame. The lively atmosphere suddenly became so silent that a pin drop could be heard. Everyone's gaze instantly shifted from Dai Wei to the young man with the cold gaze. The young man looked delicate and handsome, but his face was deathly pale without a trace of blood. The fire in his eyes seemed to be able to burn the entire palace down. Dai Wei was enjoying the pleasure of gaining fame and benefits when he suddenly heard this nightmarish voice. It was as if a bolt of lightning had struck him from the top of his head. When he turned around stiffly and saw the young man's face, he was instantly stunned. Gong Shangza. He actually saw Gong Shangza. Impossible. How could it be Gong Shangza? This was absolutely impossible. He was clearly begging on the Avenue Lorraine, and he should have died in some dark alleyway like a lunatic. How could he appear at the Lorraine International Fashion Week fully dressed? Everyone's gaze was on Gong Shangza, and did not notice the strange expression that flashed across Dai Wei's face. The guests from the media looked at each other in confusion. It took them a long time to regain their senses. A reporter asked with an unfriendly expression, "May I ask who you are, sir?" Gong Shangza was the worst at communicating with people. Even attending such an occasion, he had to wear a mask and wrap himself up tightly to feel safe, much less speak under so many eyes. The young man's palms were drenched in sweat until he noticed a pair of eyes shining on him from the crowd. Ziling's chief designer ZX. His Chinese name is Gong Shangza. The young man replied clearly. The moment the young man's voice fell, there was another burst of discussion at the scene. Ziling's chief designer? Ah. So he's Ziling's legendary designer ZX. But what did he mean by what he said just now? He actually said that the rainbow feather raiment was designed by him, and that he had personally completed it? Wasn't this a fantasy? How could history's work be done by Ziling's designers? Dai Wei stared at the young man he had not seen for 2 years. Not only did the young man not show any signs of being down and out, but he was also dressed appropriately. Even his usual cowardice in front of others was gone. So much so that he almost did not recognize him at first glance. Chapter 2042. What was even more unexpected was that Gong Shangza was Ziling's chief designer. So the person who had been going against him was this kid. No wonder. No wonder. No wonder Ziling's design style was so similar to Gong Shangza's. It really was him. He was really lucky. Dai Wei's eyes were filled with viciousness. The initial shock and panic gradually turned into disdain and fearlessness. Haha, Zai, you're still as naive as ever after 2 years. Do you think that you can defeat me with just Ziling? You think everyone will believe you just because you say you designed the rainbow feather raiment? Everything was just as Dai Wei had predicted. Not only did the audience look at Gong Shangza strangely, but the fans in the Chinese livestream channel were even more vulgar. Damn! Where did this guy come from? Is he crazy from wanting to be famous? It's fine if he plagiarizes history. But now he's saying he designed and made the clothes himself? Shameless. If it wasn't for history letting the world know about Hua Nation, Ziling wouldn't have the chance to be invited to International Fashion Week. You've lost all your face overseas. Get out of Fashion Week. Don't embarrass yourself anymore. Amidst the scolding, some rational netizens raised their suspicions. Is there something you're not telling me? Ziling's designer wouldn't say such baseless things on an occasion like today if he had any brains, right? Actually, Ziling's clothes are quite nice. Being invited to Lorraine Fashion Week is an international recognition of Ziling. There's really no need to do such a thing, is there? Similar comments were quickly suppressed by history supporters. Do you think a designer who only knows how to copy has a brain? He's an idiot, and he thinks we're idiots too. He hasn't designed anything in a year, okay? His recent works are all copying histories. Even the design that won the Golden Apex was a copy of histories. Now that he's had a taste of success, he wants a foot after getting an inch. He might as well say that history stole his work. How can there be such a shameless person? At that moment, there was a lot of discussion going on. Everyone looked at Gong Shangza strangely. A reporter asked, "Mr. Gong, just now you said that the rainbow feather robe was designed by you. What do you mean by that?" Gong Shangza. The literal meaning is that the nikhang and feather raiment is mine. Dai Wei stole my work. Not only the nikhang and feather raiment, full spring garden is also my design. What did you say? The reporter was dumbfounded. 2 years ago, Dai Wei stunned the international fashion circle with Spring Garden was also designed by him? Water Hibiscus Forest Late Autumn. Gong Shangza listed more than 10 themed series in history in one breath, as well as the specific release date of each series. Finally, he said, these were all design drafts that Dai Wei stole from me. In the corner, Dai Wei almost laughed out loud when he heard Gong Shangza's words. His expression was full of sympathy and regret, as if he was looking at a pitiful person who knew he was going to die, but was still struggling on his deathbed. He knew that this idiot was nothing to be afraid of. He didn't even need to do anything. He could play himself to death. Today, the things that this Zephyr designer named Gong Shangza had said were simply too shocking. The leading figure of Chinese style, the genius designer Dai Wei, who even the godfather of fashion personally praised, had actually stolen all of his classic works. Chapter 2043. The reporter quickly asked, "If what you said was true, why didn't you say anything before? Also, do you have any proof that Dai Wei stole the designs from you?" Gong Shangzi. No. The reporter. Everyone at the scene was speechless when they heard this. The scolding from the Chinese side almost crashed the Livestream website server. Fuck. I've lived long enough. What a living idiot. If you say it's plagiarism, then it's plagiarism. If you say it's theft, then it's theft. If you say it's yours, then it's yours. I can even say that I'm your father. Even if you're not as good as him, you can't just throw dirty water at him like that, right? How did such an unpresentable brand get chosen? It's such a disgrace to our country. Dai Wei sneered when he saw everyone's reaction. He was extremely happy. He really had to thank this kid for coming to his door to seek death. From now on, he would have nothing to worry about. Director Dai, what do you think of Mr. Gong's accusation? The reporters all turned to Dai Wei. When Dai Wei heard this, he let out a long sigh. He looked at Gong Shangzi with a pained expression and said, "Director Gong, it's not the first time that people have said that your style is an imitation of yourself. However, as a Chinese designer, I respect that you're also working hard to pass on Chinese culture, so I've never said anything about it. I didn't expect you to distort the truth and choose such a despicable method to attack me. We're born of the same root, so why are you in such a hurry to destroy each other?" Dai Wei's words triggered everyone's feelings of disdain to the extreme. Even the officials could not stand it anymore. At this moment, the president of the Lorraine Fashion Association, a respected senior in the industry, Arkith, said in a deep voice, "Mr. Gong, as far as I know, every design by Dai Wei is copyrighted. It's impossible to fake it. It's impossible to plagiarize or steal someone else's work. Unless you can prove it at an earlier time." Gong Shangzi remained silent when he heard that. Everything he owned had been robbed by Dai Wei. The design, the computer, and the pen name they had created together were all taken away by Dai Wei. The copyright registration was also done by Dai Wei. Even if he could redraw the design drafts later, Dai Wei had registered it first. If he published it, it would be blatantly stealing from Dai Wei. He would not be able to clear his name even if he jumped into the Yellow River. Looking at Gong Shangzi's expression, Arkitha's expression became even more stern. He warned, "Maybe you're unhappy because you've always been suppressed by history. Or maybe you're angry because you've always been accused of plagiarizing history. However, slandering others without any evidence, especially on an occasion like today, do you know what the consequences are? If you can't give us a reasonable explanation, we will revoke Zeiling's invitation, and you will be blacklisted by the entire fashion association. What if I can prove that what I said is true?" In the face of the officials' accusations and everyone's contemptuous gazes, the young man's gaze did not waver at all. The youth's clear and resolute gaze caused Arkith to pause for a moment. Arkith then said, "If you can prove that what you said is true, then I can represent the association to make the decision and give you a fair judgment." "Okay." Gong Shangzi nodded. Meanwhile, Dai Wei looked at the youth in front of him indifferently. He stood there calmly, his brows full of confidence. Chapter 2044. He knew the source of inspiration and the creative process of each design like the back of his hand. His understanding was no less than Gong Shangzi's. If Gong Shangzi wanted to use this method to prove that he was the original designer, he was too naive. Gong Shangzi's gaze swept past the row of models wearing the rainbow feather dress, in the middle of the runway and landed on Dai Wei. "Before I prove it, I would like to ask Director Dai a question." Dai Wei. "Sure, go ahead." These 6 sets of clothes use many ancient and exquisite Chinese techniques, especially the embroidery, which can be said to surpass the heavens. I heard that the embroidery on these clothes was personally done by you, Director Dai. May I ask if that's the case? Gong Shangzi asked coldly. Dai Wei raised his eyebrows. Haha, this kid was waiting for me here. Dai Wei immediately nodded. That's right. Because the embroidery on these clothes is extremely difficult, I personally did it. If Director Gong doesn't believe me, I can prove it on the spot. He Gong Shangzi, do you really think that I don't have any tricks up my sleeves? Hearing Gong Shangzi's question, some of the people in the industry started discussing in low voices. Is Gong Shangzi suspecting that Dai Wei didn't personally make these clothes? Gong Shangzi is probably in trouble this time. Dai Wei is indeed proficient in embroidery, especially Su embroidery. These clothes are made using Su embroidery techniques. Moreover, even if we can prove that Dai Wei didn't make the clothes, we can't prove that Dai Wei didn't design the blueprint, right? Gong Shangzi ignored the whispers around him and said directly, there's no need for that. Hearing the people around him defending him, Dai Wei chuckled and said good-naturedly, it's okay. We're all communicating, so it's normal to have doubts. After Dai Wei finished speaking, he looked at the exquisite and beautiful dresses with emotion and said in a reminiscing tone, our Chinese clothing culture is extensive and profound, and the craftsmanship is even more exquisite. I've always dreamed of bringing Chinese culture to the world stage one day. Therefore, other than design, I've also done in-depth research on Chinese craftsmanship. Personally, turning blueprints into real objects is a very meaningful process for me. Although a good designer didn't necessarily have to be a good tailor, a designer with top-notch craftsmanship would definitely have a better understanding of clothing. Dai Wei's words were immediately acknowledged by many of the industry peers present. From beginning to end, Gong Shangzi only stood there quietly, not saying a word. When Dai Wei finished speaking, the young man suddenly moved his feet and slowly walked toward the center of the tea stage. The stranger's gaze was like a dagger on his back. The serious social barrier made every step the young man took felt like he was walking on an ice blade. However, he knew that he could not stop. He could not retreat. There was someone who had been watching him. Seeing Gong Shangzi suddenly walk up to the stage, everyone looked at him curiously. Everyone's eyes were filled with impatience. What is this person trying to do now? A fine international fashion banquet has been ruined by a clown. I should have kicked him out just now. The dissatisfied voices below the stage grew louder and louder. Gong Shangzi finally walked in front of one of the models dressed in a rainbow-colored feather dress. Her pale, almost transparent fingers carefully picked up the wide sleeves of the mannequin and slowly flipped them up. In the next second, the young man's gaze shot towards Dai Wei like a sharp blade. Now, Director Dai, may I ask the second question? May I ask why you embroidered my name on your work? What? Dai Wei's expression changed. In the next second, the high-definition camera zoomed in. On the giant screen behind everyone, on the back of Gong Shangzi's embroidered sleeves, there were 3 clear Chinese characters embroidered neatly in clerical script. Gong Shangzi. Chapter 2045. Under the high-definition camera, the texture of the fabric and every stitch of the embroidery could be seen clearly. The words Gong Shangzi, embroidered with golden thread, were clearly displayed to everyone present, as well as the audience watching the live broadcast on the other side of the ocean. There was a professional interpreter at the Lorraine Fashion Week venue. At this moment, after hearing Gong Shangzi's words and seeing the 3 words on the big screen, many foreign industry insiders began to ask their Chinese companions around them. What's that? Is it a Chinese language? The designer said that's his name? That's right, it's a Chinese language, and it's the designer's name. Oh my God. That's impossible. Everyone in the circle knew that many designers like to leave a special mark on their works that only they knew. It could be a symbol of special protection, or it could be their name or initials. However, they had never heard of anyone leaving someone else's name on their work. At that moment, Dai Wei stared at the words Gong Shangzi on the big screen as if he had seen a ghost. His heart was pounding, and sweat was dripping from his forehead. Ugh, what's going on? Why would Gong Shangzi's name be embroidered on Dai Wei's work? Could it be that someone did something to it? Just now, Gong Shangzi specially asked Dai Wei if he personally embroidered the embroidery on these clothes. Dai Wei swore that he did. Oh my God! This flip. Did Dai Wei really steal the rainbow feather raiment? Then the source of Dai Wei's other designs is worth investigating. Dai Wei's limbs were numb and cold as he listened to the discussions around him. He subconsciously looked at a certain position in the front row. Ning Xueluo's expression was extremely ugly. Damn it! How could it be? Gong Shangza is an idiot. He's as unsuspecting as an idiot. How could he have thought of doing something like that to the clothes? Why didn't I find anything even though I've checked the clothes countless times? The worst part is that this kid had set a trap for me. He made me say that I did all the embroidery on the clothes myself. There's no way I can change it now. Dai Wei's brain was about to explode. At this time, the president of the Lorraine Clothing Association, Arkith, had already strode onto the stage to personally inspect the clothes. In the end, upon inspection, all 6 sets of ready-made clothes had Gong Shangza's name on an inconspicuous position on the back of the sleeves. In an instant, the crowd was in an uproar. The Chinese fans who were watching the live broadcast were all dumbfounded. What was going on? Every single one of Dai Wei's rainbow feather robes had Gong Shangza's name embroidered on it. What was going on? On the stage, Arkith looked at Dai Wei sharply after checking the clothes. Director Dai, can you explain? Dai Wei came back to his senses and gulped. He forced himself to remain calm and put on an expression of disbelief as he said indignantly, "How could this be? This was impossible. How could I embroider another designer's name on my work? I didn't even do this embroidery." Chapter 2046. Arkitha's face darkened. But you just admitted that all the embroidery on the clothes was done by you alone. Dai Wei's expression did not change. That's true, but I really don't know why the name Gong Shangza would appear on my work. Dai Wei was determined to deny it to the end. Seeing this, the crowd could not make up their minds. Could it be that someone did something to these clothes? I think it's very likely. That must be it. Otherwise, it doesn't make sense. Compared to Gong Shangza, who was a nobody in the international fashion circle, everyone subconsciously trusted Dai Wei more. Because of Dai Wei's hint, everyone naturally thought that someone had done something to the clothes. Arkith heard this and said in a low voice, "Indeed, we can't rule out the possibility that someone else did the embroidery without your knowledge." Dai Wei heard the reply that he had expected, and immediately heaved a sigh of relief. However, before Dai Wei could smile proudly, he saw the young man beside Arkith say with a certain tone and an expressionless face, "Impossible." Instantly, everyone's eyes fell on the young man. Arkith frowned and asked, "Why is it impossible?" Because of the huge reversal just now, no one spoke lightly this time. Everyone held their breath and waited for the young man's answer. Gong Shangza lifted a corner of his sleeve and answered word by word. "Because for this part of the embroidery, I used the double-sided embroidery technique." Double-sided embroidery? Three-sided embroidery? What was that? After hearing this extremely rare word, there was another buzz of discussion at the scene. What's double-sided embroidery? I don't know, I've never heard of it. I've heard of double-sided embroidery. It's a very difficult embroidery technique. Single-sided embroidery only requires the front to be neat and tidy, and the back can be ignored. Double-sided embroidery requires both sides to be neat and even. Even the Chinese people did not understand what Gong Shangza was talking about. Even the industry insiders in China only had a smattering of knowledge, let alone the foreigners. At this moment, everyone was confused. At this moment, a middle-aged man wearing white linen casual clothes walked onto the stage. Seeing this, everyone exclaimed excitedly, "It's Chu Guanyang." Yeah, Teacher Chu will definitely know. Arkith was in a dilemma. When he saw Chu Guanyang coming over, he heaved a sigh of relief. "Chu, I'm afraid I'll have to trouble you with this." "Guild leader Arkith, you're too polite." Chu Guanyang nodded and exchanged a few words with Arkith. Then, his deep gaze swept across the young man beside Arkith. The first time he saw this young man was at the Golden Summit Awards. The young man's design style was accused of plagiarizing Dai Wei, but in the end, he won that year's Golden Summit Awards with full marks. Who would have thought that their next meeting would be under such circumstances? Gong Shangza's clear and clean gaze calmly returned the middle-aged man's gaze. Under everyone's nervous and curious gazes, Chu Guanyang quickly retracted his gaze, and began to carefully examine the embroidery of the 3 words, Gong Shangzi, on each piece of clothing. Time slowly ticked by. After an unknown amount of time, Chu Guanyang finally let go of the clothes in his hand. Chapter 2047. Chu Guanyang looked at the crowd and said slowly, China's embroidery is usually single-sided. However, there's an even more difficult embroidery technique called double-sided embroidery. Double-sided embroidery is one of China's outstanding traditional crafts. It's a type of variant embroidery, also known as two-sided light. It's embroidered on the same piece of material and in the same embroidery process. The outline is exactly the same, and the pattern is equally exquisite. Both can be admired by people. Teacher Chu, what's the double-sided embroidery that Gong Shangzi mentioned? Someone asked impatiently. Chu Guanyang continued to explain. There's another type of double-sided embroidery that many people know about. It's called double-sided multicolored embroidery. As the name suggests, it embroidered the same pattern on both sides at the same time, but with different colors. Chu Guanyang paused and said excitedly, very few people know that there is another kind of embroidery that is the most difficult. It is the double-sided embroidery that designer Gong mentioned just now. The double-sided multicolored embroidery is invented on the basis of double-sided multicolored embroidery. The embroidery has different patterns on both sides, different needles and different colors. The patterns on both sides are different, the needles are different, and the colors are different. Different scripts, different needles and different colors, hence the name double-faced 3 different embroidery. I see. How magical. He can embroider 2 different patterns on both sides at the same time. The crowd was filled with exclamations. Everyone was immersed in Chu Guanyang's description of the exquisite traditional Chinese crafts. At this moment, Chu Guanyang concluded, I've seen it just now. The words on the sleeves of these 6 sets of clothes were embroidered using the double-sided multicolored embroidery. In other words, this part of the embroidery must have been done at the same time. There's no way that it could have been added later. The moment Chu Guanyang finished speaking, everyone snapped out of their daze. Realization dawned on their faces. In other words, this embroidery must have been done at the same time. There's no way that it could have been tampered with. Then Dai Wei must be lying. In the opposite corner, Dai Wei's expression had already changed when Gong Shangzi said the words, double-sided embroidery. At this moment, after hearing Chu Guanyang's words, he was completely frozen on the spot. He could no longer maintain his calm expression as cold sweat dripped from his forehead and dripped onto the shiny floor. As more and more people stared at him, Dai Wei couldn't care less about his image anymore. He wiped the sweat off his forehead with his sleeves and said with trembling lips, I was the one who embroidered these words. I like designer Gong's designs. Embroidering his name is just to motivate myself. That's right. That was it. So what if his work had Gong Shangzi's name on it? It was his freedom to embroider the name of his work. Chu Guanyang laughed coldly when he heard Dai Wei's explanation. The double-sided multicolored embroidery is the highest level of skill in the embroidery world. Even in Su Xiu's hometown state, there are very few who have this skill. Since designer Dai said that you were the one who embroidered the double-sided multicolored embroidery, why don't you prove it to us here? Didn't he just tell Gong Shangzi that he could prove that he was the one who embroidered the embroidery? The moment Chu Guanyang finished speaking, the last string in Dai Wei's mind finally snapped. His face was ashen, and he could no longer stand. His legs gave way and he collapsed to the ground. How could this be? It's over. It's all over for me. Chapter 2048. At this moment, the fans in the country who had sworn to protect history and bitten Gong Shangzi were all dumbfounded. What's going on? The rainbow feather raiment wasn't designed by Dai Wei at all, but by Gong Shangzi? Oh my god. Dai Wei was lying from the beginning to the end. He really stole Zeiling's design, and all of his famous works were designed by Gong Shangzi. How could this be? His worldview has been shattered. Amidst the shock, there were still people who refused to give up. Even if we can prove that the rainbow feather raiment wasn't made by Dai Wei, That doesn't prove that he wasn't the one who completed the design draft, right? Such comments were immediately rebutted by many people. Some people keep calling others idiots, but I think he's the idiot himself. He's still defending Dai Wei at a time like this. If the Rainbow Feather Raiment's design draft wasn't drawn by Gong Shangzi, then did Gong Shangzi make these clothes out of thin air? He clearly didn't make the clothes, but he still shamelessly pretended to be pretentious in front of the world, saying that he made them himself and showing off how good his skills are. Seeing Gong Shangzi's name on the clothes, he still doesn't repent and continues to frame others without batting an eyelid. After being exposed on the spot that it was a double-sided embroidery that couldn't have been tampered with, he actually shamelessly said that he embroidered Gong Shangzi's name on the clothes to motivate himself. Such a ridiculous reason. Until he was slapped in the face by Chu Guanyang on the spot, he finally had nothing to say. As the brand's chief designer, the so-called #1 international Chinese style designer, his words and actions are so inconsistent, and he's been lying from the beginning to the end. How trustworthy are the words of such a person? It's really doubtful whether his previous works were his originals. In any case, I'm on Gong Shangzi's side this time. Following that, many people asked, but how could Gong Shangzi's design be stolen by Dai Wei? Not only was the design draft registered by Dai Wei, but even the finished clothes fell into Dai Wei's hands. This is too strange. Not only the audience watching the live broadcast, but all the guests and industry insiders were also curious about this question. At that moment, everyone's eyes, including Arkith and Chu Guanyang, fell on Gong Shangzi. Gong Shangzi faced the gazes from all over the world, his emotions surging. He had waited for so long and endured for so long. Finally, someone was willing to listen to him speak of this secret. He finally had the right to speak. The young man took a deep breath and began to speak slowly. Back then, Dai Wei and I founded a fashion studio called Nick Hang. Since I'm not good at socializing with people, I'm in charge of the design, and Dai Wei is in charge of the studio's operations. In the beginning, no one cared about our studio, but it was known by more and more people. Later, our studio opened abroad and began to seek a broader world. Gradually, many investors began to hope to cooperate with us. I've always regarded Dai Wei as my most trusted partner. I've never interfered with the studio's affairs and only focused on creating. I've also entrusted all of my designs to him. But I didn't expect that he had already secretly registered all my designs in his own name. After transferring all my designs, he robbed the studio and signed a contract with an investor, completely erasing me and Nichang's existence, and then established history. Chapter 2049. As for the Nick Hang feather raiment, it took me 2 years to complete. It was originally prepared for the International Fashion Week one day. Back then, there was a fire in our sample room. Dai Wei told me that the Nick Hang feather raiment was destroyed in the fire. It was only today that I found out that the Nick Hang feather raiment was not destroyed. Instead, it was taken by him. The crowd was dead silent. Everyone was listening to the young man's angry and trembling voice. Their emotions fluctuated as the young man spoke. Gong Shangzi paused and continued, "Perhaps I should thank his greed. If it wasn't for that, I wouldn't have been able to prove my innocence and no one would believe me. When he became the chief designer of history and stunned the world with Spring Garden, he became the leader of China's fashion industry and the pride of China. I was penniless and begging on the streets of Lorraine. Who would believe a beggar's words? Even after I became the chief designer of Zealing, it was because history was established first, and all of Dai Wei's famous works were stolen from my drafts. As a result, my own designs have always been considered to be copying history." Hearing this, everyone was enraged to the extreme. Oh my God! This is simply too shameless. No wonder Zeiling's design style is so similar to history's. I didn't expect this to be the truth. History was originally designed by Gong Shangzi. How could it not be similar? Fuck. I actually helped history scold Zeiling for being a plagiarist. Chu Guanyang listened to the young man, his heart filled with emotions. Back at the Golden Summit Award, he was already curious why Zeiling's design was so similar to history's. It was not just the appearance, but the spirit. It was as if they were made by the same person. It turned out that his judgment was right. The truth was that Zeiling and history were made by the same person. Although the design of history still maintained the original style, he always felt that it was lacking a sense of spirituality. It was probably because the design drafts that Dai Wei had stolen had already been used up, and the subsequent works were not from Gong Shang's hands. The president of the Lorraine Fashion Association, Arkith, looked sharply at Dai Wei, who was standing in the corner. Dai Wei, do you have anything to say about Gong Shang's accusations? Dai Wei's eyes were bloodshot and his chest was heaving violently. No. He absolutely could not allow himself to be destroyed like this. Even if he lied, even if he didn't make the rainbow feather raiment himself, there was still a chance for him to make a comeback. However, if it was proven that even the designs were stolen, then he would really be finished. Dai Wei shouted angrily. He's slandering me. I personally created history, and every single design draft was also personally designed by me. As for the rainbow feather garment, it was only because the technique was too complicated, so I asked someone to secretly hire a professional to embroider it. I apologize for lying to everyone. But who knew that the person who took the job was Gong Shangze, and Gong Shangze even found a loophole. Not only did he purposely leave his name on the clothes, he even framed me for stealing all the designs from him. It was ridiculous. History has been established for 3 years. How many design drafts can I steal to ensure that history is still the #1 Chinese style brand? That you're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.